Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
Dean, we're back again with another TEC Bytes
Yes,
episode.
sir.
For anybody unfamiliar with the concept here, this is where we get to spend a little time deep diving into some stories around science, technology, business, innovation, just some stuff that we feel like we want to talk a little bit more about than just our normal like TEConnecting segments.
That's right.
Get a little bit of a deeper dive into.
That's right.
And ideally, maybe provide you with some talking points and
water cooler. I'm going to go back to the water cooler. Or, we got family events. People are getting back together now. You need topics to talk about.
That's right.
So we're going to help you out. We're going to give you some of the high-level ones that are kind of tickling our fancy, I guess.
That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about shady Harvard professors today. We're going to talk about innovative companies, artificial intelligence, remote work, the global minimum tax, and the Wendyverse.
Which is, we should have put that one at the very top. I'm so curious as to what your take is on that. Yeah,
okay. we'll get to that. So all that plus our usual What's TEConnected with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, Dean, let's get right into it, man. Yeah, we threw some stories by each other here of things that we wanted to talk about.
Yes.
I'll let you tee up the first one here about a Harvard professor.
Well, so this is a Harvard professor, and he got caught, basically. But it's really, the story, to me, opened up this Pandora's box that I had no idea existed. So before we get to the Harvard professor, that really was just kind of, again, the tip of the iceberg for me. Right. It's what the program that he was involved in. So the 1,000 Talents Plan.
I'd never heard of this before.
I had never heard of this before as well. So okay,
but let's be honest, we're not really probably being recruited for this either. So
we are not a part of the 1,000 Talents Plan. No, my friend, we are not. So what is it? The Chinese Communist Party developed a 1,000 Talents Plan to lure top scientific talent with the goal of making China the world's leader in science and technology by 2050. Right. So they use this this plan, I guess, is what you would call it, to recruit folks, and they've done a really, really good job. I think I saw the number somewhere. It was like they have, since 2008, they've recruited some 60,000 professionals. Yeah, there it is, between 2008 and 2016. So what are they doing here? Well, it's the program, again, attracts these scientists and engineers from overseas, people that they don't have, right? And the whole idea here is that when they do research or those types of things, they are tapped into the intellectual property and they can garner that so that they can, obviously advance their technologies and stuff like that. Now, seems kind of innocuous, maybe not such a bad thing. Yes, it does go on in the sense that universities are out there recruiting, battling for talent, which is basically what this comes down to. But the issue here, and what the issue was with this particular nanoscientist, whose name is Charles Lieber, who is basically one of the top chemists in the world right now. He's charged with
apparently a nanotech guy too.
Yes, nanoscientist. That's exactly right. He was charged with concealing funding from Chinese governments and lying to American agencies about his alleged ties to China's 1,000 Talents Plan. So here's the issue, is that now, not only I didn't know this existed, but actually I'm going to quote Rose McKinney, who's the chief scientific officer at the Association of Medical Colleges, when she wrote, the fact that the Chinese government recruited faculty, then told them to lie to their U.S. employers and the federal government is problematic because it raises suspicions about anyone with collaboration with China. So, China is just, it's this thing we're trying to figure out. They are being very uber aggressive in going after economies and how they're attacking it. Everybody knows they want to be the world's leader by 2050. What does it mean to have a communist party being the world's technology leader by 2050? Didn't know that they had this program out there that is, that that is recruiting this talent. One thing before I open it up here, that where it has manifested itself to me was another key thing. I'm like, oh, whoa, check this out. International patents. So patents are a way that obviously companies can protect themselves with the investment that they make in technologies. You hear a lot about them in pharmaceuticals, but patents are everywhere, right? So back in 2010, China was registering on average around 11,000 international patents. The U.S. was in the 45,000 range. So in the last 12 years, that has shrunk, and now they've eclipsed us and how many international patents they're registering by year. So there's the equation, right? They've tapped into this talent. They're using the talent to get innovative patents. They're registering the patents to become world dominant by 2050. Right. I'm like, dang, this is deep. This is everywhere. This is not just, because I can remember going to trade shows and stuff like that. We've discussed this where you would have, folks walking around for the express purpose of getting product and then taking it back and unengineering it or reverse engineering how it worked so that they could build other models and stuff like that. So it's just like, I don't know, man. It just taps into this whole thing that, wow, this is really, really... really nefarious, really, I don't know what the right word is.
It's very complicated because
very
to your point,
complicated.
There's... It's not unheard of. I mean, we did it after World War II. We grabbed every German scientist that we could find and brought them over here and tapped into all their knowledge and what they had done.
Sure.
And to your point, like, that kind of exchange and like grabbing people that, you think can help you and your country out is not unheard of. But then, because I remember thinking that too when I was reading this article. I'm like, okay, I obviously what he's doing is, was shady in the fact that he wasn't reporting stuff, but I wasn't quite sure where the real issue was. And then you get into stuff where you find out that like some of our Department of Defense and NIH was funding his research.
That's right.
Which then he is basically kind of, handing over and selling potentially and selling himself eventually to the Chinese government to, give that over to him. And that's where obviously it starts getting like, okay, well, we were helping him fund his research for him to go take it elsewhere. That's problematic, obviously. Yes. But I do think it's interesting that we're in this weird space with China right now where it's not like, I think back to like the Cold War with Russia, and obviously Russia's on everyone's minds again right now too. Mm-hmm. But, like that was a whole different thing. I felt like that was a whole like just trying to prevent, these nuclear superpowers from literally blowing up the world kind of thing. Right. Whereas this now has become
because technologically, if I could step in, it kind of seemed like we were on even pars, right? I mean, they got astronauts up into, in space. And
right.
It seemed like they were on par there. Well, maybe not in the late 80s and 90s. Keep going. But
then now, like this whole thing with China, it feels like it's a whole different weird thing because I feel like we've been very reliant on China for a very long time for a lot of stuff, and still are in a lot of ways.
We're very intertwined.
And yet we also now are in this kind of, and some of it's been like a political thing over the last decade or so where we've kind of really, started making this issue out of like, do we want, to let them have the kind of power that they're trying to gain, even though we kind of fed into a lot of it for so long. I don't know. It
is weird.
It's a very complicated issue.
What I'm learning about the we that fed into it is really the elites of our society, right? The people that can profit off of these types. It's not you and I.
No, not at all.
We profit from it in the sense that we can get, I guess, our McDonald's whatever kids meal toy for whatever, which I can do without, that's just me. But anyway, it is really fascinating. And again, it goes back to the sense of, a communist government and what is that? How is that going to manifest itself? It's just one more notch in the overall commentary on where we are, where China is, what this relationship is starting to look like. And quite frankly, I mean, if you ask me, with kind of the meltdown of Russia and what's kind of going on right now, I mean, it's becoming very clear to me it's going to be a two-horse race here, West and China, right? Yep. Basically. Yep. Is where it's going to be. So anyway, there's the Thousands Talent Plan out there. They snabbed one of our top chemists, paid him enough to lie about it, and now he's going to spend some time in jail. Yeah. Although he's a pretty old guy. And, he's got some health problems. He's
got cancer too. It's unfortunate.
But that's out there, man. It's out there. Yeah. So, anyway, but that's leading to innovation. You got a list?
Well, yes. So Fast Company put out a list of the world's most innovative companies of 2022. Mm-hmm. And what I found most interesting about this, I'm not going to run through this whole list, obviously, and of course, as always, our show notes for the episode will have links to all the stuff that we're talking about, all the articles. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a link to the Podbean landing page to get all the hyperlinks, because YouTube doesn't let us put all those hyperlinks in there. So check those out if you want to actually read along and check out some of these articles. So this is the 100 most innovative companies, or the world's most innovative companies for 2022. But what I thought was fascinating is 7 of the top 10, in fact, the first 7 of the top 10, the innovation portion of it, and the reason why they were singling them out, all had to do with climate change initiatives. And
really?
I thought that was an interesting kind of like a realization of like, maybe their way of saying like, look, right now to be an innovative company is tackling this whole climate change thing head on.
Interesting.
So like they have like the number one is Stripe, which it says for kickstarting the carbon removal industry. Now, Stripe is actually a payments company.
Yeah, we use Stripe.
Do we? Okay, I didn't know if we did or not. So,
yeah, I mean, well, we use it for like registrations and stuff like that. But yeah,
okay. So they're a payments company, but apparently they're putting a lot of effort into carbon removal, and this understanding that like, it's not enough for us to just simply at this point try to cut down on our emissions, but that we're actually going to have to figure out how to pull carbon out of the atmosphere and reverse some of the damage that we've done. And apparently they're putting a lot of initiatives behind that, and a lot of their profits are going into those initiatives.
Interesting.
And then you've got ones like number 2 is this company called Solid. And I'll be honest, I had heard of almost
none
few
of these.
companies.
I mean, I'm looking at the list.
Until you get to like Microsoft and SpaceX,
right? Yeah.
Sologen, devising emissions-free way to turn sugar into industrial chemicals. 12 for turning the tide on petrochemicals. Block Power for tackling climate change by giving every homeowner the opportunity to electrify.
Well, all right. So there's okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
a lot of stuff. Climate Trace, Watershed. So it's an interesting list. And then the first one that you get to that's not climate related specifically, and is a company you may be familiar with, is Microsoft, which basically it's for humanizing productivity, and basically how the world of Zoom, how everything took off in the last, couple years or so, as everyone's had to work from home and figure out new ways to stay connected, to work and to be productive. They talked about SpaceX as for building a rocket that just runs. So it's an interesting list, and you do dive through it, and you get some more, that people are fairly familiar with, like AB InBev, basically for kind of, promoting and propping up local breweries. Fanatics for the sports company who I was not aware apparently has bought into most of the sports trading card world. They acquired Topps.
Oh yes, I had heard about that. Yeah.
They're like the official trading card rights for MLB, for NFL Players Association, and the NBA. So there's huge step they've taken there. And as someone who was an avid baseball card collector back in the early 90s or so, I found that kind of interesting. So it's a fascinating list. There's a lot of interesting stuff here, a lot of interesting companies. They mentioned Warner Media at one point, and basically
why are they innovative?
Well, it's their experiment they did last year with releasing all of their new releases straight to HBO Max for the entire year last year. And now this year, they're not doing that anymore where it's straight to HBO Max, but it's a shorter 45-day window. So a movie of theirs will come out in the theater, and 45 days later, it's being released on HBO Max. And people were like, oh, this is unacceptable. You're going to destroy theaters. You're going to cause all these problems. And in fact, it's actually not been a bad thing. They've had a couple films that, even though they were direct to HBO Max and had a theatrical release as well, still did it very well in theaters. And it's not, they're kind of changing the model basically of how we, consume entertainment.
That stuff. Yeah.
And the theatrical release stuff. So interesting list. I highly recommend checking it out. There's, deep dives into each of these companies where you can kind of learn a little bit more, get a little more info about each one of them. But did anything stand out to you? Is there any of these you looked at?
Well, I looked at one, Shipper. It's kind of lower on the list, but it's a little bit in our world. It's Indonesia. I guess they're an Indonesian company that is a logistics network, and they're addressing the problem, if you will, of trying to bring e-commerce market a little bit more economically to that area. And they've grown a lot. They've got 220 fulfillment centers now across 35 cities in Indonesia, whereas they used to have a customer base of like 2,700. They're more than 20,000 online sellers today. So it's just unique. And what they do is they build technology that helps third-party logistics firms manage orders and optimize their shipping routes. So that's in our world, right?
Yep.
It's good to see that we live in this world and we think it's very innovative.
Right.
What the heck is going on? And as it relates to human capital and those types of things. So I was at least comforted a little bit to see some of our world make the crack the top 50 at least of innovation that is out there.
Definitely.
Shopify, which is another one of those that great customer of ours as well. It's good to see them. We think they're very innovative in what they do.
I like that one because they were talking about that they became the first commerce platform to bring native shopping to TikTok. Because basically the reason why fast companies call them out as innovative is because they were bridging social media and sales.
Yes.
Where it's like, sure, there's a sales component, about all this, and that's what they do, but understanding that social media can be a massive marketing and sales platform as well.
Absolutely. How do you take advantage of all these influencers?
Yeah,
so you can buy right there.
Yep. Exactly. And I've seen it. I'm on TikTok. I don't record anything there, but I do enjoy the videos. And you will see quite often somebody will do a little promo for something, and either an intentional or unintentional one, and there'll be a little link where you can click, and if you wanted to go buy something directly, you could.
Yeah, so I thought you were going to dive into how they came up with their number. No? Do we even know? This is just like their opinion, right?
I
this
think
is
it
Fast
is.
Company's opinion.
I didn't really see any kind of...
There's no qualitative, or I wouldn't even know how you would quantify how a company's being innovative.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Yeah.
Patents, or is it on, I don't know, funding that they're getting and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
they don't...
The only thing I referred to is that, they refer to as businesses featuring inspired stories across a wide range of industries. Oh, so it's story related. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just like all the lists that we always talk about.
Yes. I just didn't know they had this like secret sauce, and truly innovative.
Right. No, I think they just kind of like, I don't know, they probably had to get together and sat down and like, okay, let's talk about innovative companies and who we going to put at top and why. So, yeah.
All right. So that kind of maybe leads a little bit into my next one, which is, I guess the headline was AI emotional intelligence. So here's my big question of the day. Are we coding our way out of being human? So
a good question.
So that's what got me really interested in this, and I went down a little bit of a wormhole here about how AI is being used as a communication tool. And in this one article that I was reading, kind of centered on divorced parents or families that are breaking up, right? And I did not know this because I don't have that particular issue in my life now, never will. But so there are apps out there. One of them is called Our Family Wizard, which is a scheduling and communication tool for divorce and co-parenting couples that launched way back in 2001. But what it does basically is it enables divorced parents to communicate to each other within the app. Now, within the app, they're starting to use AI, and one of it's called Tone Meter, which helps users refine their communications, if you will, before they hit send. So, the use case would be, if an emotionally charged phrase is detected in a message, right, before you would send it, the AI kicks in and sets, well, first off, it gives you like a little indicator of signal strength, kind of a thing of how rude, or I don't know what the right word is, but this is an aggressive...
Your tone,
This is an aggressive tone that, and then it makes a suggestion of how you might want to refine what you're saying in order to not be as aggressive or humiliating or upsetting. Like if you were typing in, "It's your fault that we were late," as an example, it'll flag that as being aggressive and say, well, maybe there's a better way that we can say this type of a thing. So, and then you come to find out that this is actually kind of everywhere right now. AI is being used a lot. Apple is the largest major tech company to expand into this space. It's partway there with a 3-year study with UCLA launched in 2020. It establishes if iPhones and iWatches and Apple Watches could detect and ultimately predict and intervene in cases of depression and mood disorders. So they're using it again. Understanding the speech, what is happening, those types of things. Did not know this. Google's Smart Reply. Do you use Google Gmail? I don't use Gmail, so I don't know this.
I have Gmail. I don't really use it that often. It's not my primary.
Well, apparently there's a Gmail smart reply.
Right.
And that it makes suggestions to you in real time.
Right.
You know, hey, do you want me to finish the sentence for you, basically? Type of a thing.
Outlook does that too.
A little bit.
Because I still have Hotmail, but it's Outlook now. And it does that too, where it'll sometimes offer to finish a sentence or add in something for you.
That's right. So
but yes, Google takes it to a different level.
So now we got this smart, whatever they call it, smart compose that is out there too. So there's my 3 examples, if you will, and it's actually going even further into that. So again, I go back to my question is, are we coding our way out of being human? So I don't know. You've got the one extreme where you hear stories about China really controlling behavior, right? Starting to use technology to control behavior. Visual analytics, where people are, tapping into where they are on their phone and stuff like that, right? Now you're using AI to refine speech along the way. So isn't it part of the human condition to kind of learn and interact with people? I don't know. This has really got me questioning, is this... I don't know. Where does this go? I mean, at the end of the road, is everybody just homogenized and we don't say anything unless it's very... It's called by the AI to be acceptable. Which, by the way, AI can be gamed, as we all know.
Yes, it can be. Yeah,
You can make tweaks in the code behind it to. We've already learned that companies are doing that in order to affect what they think is the right way to go. So anyway, your commentary, dear sir.
You're right. This is one of those things I'm like, I see both sides of the fence.
I do. I see the benefit
and
that divorce app.
Yeah, like I think
they
that
ran
was
studies.
And when it's talking about stuff like for mental health and folks that are struggling like with depression,
100%.
That anything that can gauge, the way someone's feeling or reacting and maybe make suggestions about, hey, maybe this is the time for you to reach out for help.
Right.
We're monitoring your posts here and monitoring what you're doing.
Yep.
It's time to reach out for help. Or maybe pinging someone that you've identified as someone who can reach out to you.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of benefit to that. To your point, the co-parenting one, I think there's a lot of smart benefit to that too. And let's be honest,
maybe
we've reached this whole concept where this idea that we know that part of the problem of the internet is the idea that people feel like they can be anonymous, and just say whatever they feel like that they would never say to someone in person.
That's right.
Talk to people a way that when we interact with each other personally, even when we are on different sides of a topic,
you typically would not do.
We don't engage that way in
That's
person.
right.
I mean, now granted, that kind of culture has led to people being a little more antagonistic even in person than they probably used to be before. But we know in general, you look at a comment board on anything, literally anything, and there's somebody in there who is picking a fight out of it or making a big deal about it, or screaming obscenities at people or whatever. I don't know, so there definitely is some issues there that I guess if we had some sort of technology that could, but to my point there though, is that does that really make any difference? Like, are you going to be able to stop someone from acting that way just because something pops up and says,
I don't know.
Hey, is it a good, because Twitter's doing that now. I know like there's a thing on Twitter, like when you go to send a tweet and if it's a little, like if you're like amped up, and you throw a curse in there or something, it might, ping you and say, hey, you sure you want to use this kind of language?
It does?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay.
And I mean, granted, I don't tweet a lot.
So
and when I do, I'm not
using,
I'm not typically doing something like that. And if I am, I'm like, but that's just
the Reds traded away.
Yeah, exactly. If I am, and if I'm like, like if I'm doing it, it's because that's what I want to say. And I don't need Twitter to tell me that's not what I want to say. I'm like, actually it is. But I'm also someone who's I'm not intentionally going out there trying to harm others or disparage others. I'm just expressing an opinion maybe about something that's annoying me. I don't know. It's like I said, I don't know the people that we would want to potentially have their attitudes changed by this are actually people that are going to change their attitudes, or would actually might be more pissed off than ever when you try to force them
because
when I was reading this article, it mentioned that about the whole co-parenting thing, that that some people simply won't react well to that. There are going to be some parents that I think they said jerk is a jerk.
Yes, a jerk is a jerk. And they actually had examples in that 130 people, whatever, where a couple people tried to game the system. They understood it. Look, humans are pretty smart.
Right. They were trying to antagonize their the other parent or whatever into saying bad things.
Yeah. So,
I don't know.
But to me, it's just like, it's just one of those things, I guess. And now I'm aware. That AI is out there. I am a little bit worried about the homogenization. I don't know that I'll go to the extreme. Is it possible to code your way out of adversity? I mean, I feel like that's what is trying to happen here, right? I mean, people are trying to mitigate that. But at the end of the road, I mean, that's the human condition is like, I don't know. I go back to the school playground, and it's like the kids that act bad, it's like everybody gets it, and they're like, no, that's bad, and I'm not going to do that. I don't need AI. I see this example. This is bad.
We know what's right and what's wrong.
Right? I think
most people do in general.
Yes,
we know what's right and what's wrong, and we choose to decide which side we're on there for the most part. I mean, like I said, I think there's something to this.
I do. There's some, like anything, there's some benefits, just like social media. There's some benefits, when it first came about, this is going to change the world for the good, right? It's going to give people a voice, and oh boy.
But that's just it. You can go down some dark paths eventually, like when you get to the point where you're simply telling people, like, this is what you are and aren't allowed to say based on what they asked. Or when you de-incentivize people. Like, okay, I'll give you an example here because Black Mirror, the show Black Mirror, which you still haven't watched it.
No, I haven't watched it.
You really need to watch this. Like,
I got no time for that. But anyway,
we literally could do like a series of episodes just about Black Mirror and how utterly relevant it is to our society.
Gotcha.
But there was an episode that was all about social media and like a world that had been constructed around social media, basically being like the be all end all of who you were in existence. And there's it centers around this girl played by Bryce Dallas Howard who it does the whole social media thing where every interaction you have, you get judged on. And that judgment, like people basically giving you thumbs up or stars or whatever, and saying like, oh, you were nice to me, thumbs up, oh, you were kind of a jerk, down, I'm going to down,
This is happening in China now, but go ahead.
It is, exactly. It very much is. That was the whole thing. When that thing came out, when China started doing that, everyone's like, well, Black Mirror already brought this up.
There. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, so there's this whole narrative about that. And it even it affects, just like what China's trying to do, it even affects your social status. So that's where I can see something like this starting to go wrong, where we say like, all right, well, now we're deciding that whoever it is that decides to have volatile, opinions or, and I'm not even saying like the opinions of like, what clearly is or isn't the right thing to be saying or doing, but just if someone decides that your tone can decide whether you are allowed to participate in conversation.
Right. I mean, who's to say that dashboard doesn't come? Oh, John's comments are called by AI 60% of the time.
Right, right.
Oh man, he doesn't have nice things to say.
Exactly.
The technology is always correcting him.
Exactly.
And that might not work in the metaverse. Is that where we're going in the next one here, John? What you got going on here?
So
I don't know. I see Wendyverse, and I'm thinking to myself, metaverse, but I don't know.
I need to pull up this clip I sent to you. Hang on a second. I know I sent you something. Okay, so here's why I pulled this article up. For one thing, this was a snippet that came out of there's a daily newsletter I get called While You Were Working that Smart Brief puts out, and it's always like kind of like a compilation of stories throughout the day, stuff that you may not have been aware of or realized happened. All right, well, here was this headline. The Wendyverse opens in Meta's Horizon Worlds. Okay, here's the little snippet that they gave of it. Wendy's created a virtual reality Wendyverse experience inside Meta's Horizon Worlds that can only be accessed by those who own an Oculus Quest 2 headset. I read that and was like, all right, I kind of get what you're saying here.
Got it.
I know what Meta is, and I get the Oculus.
The Oculus, the virtual reality. Got it. Mm-hmm.
The next line is the one that just threw me for a loop. The experience's first phase offers a VR restaurant and a partnership plaza where users can use Baconators to virtually play basketball in the Buck Biscuit Dome. What is that gibberish? That sounds like something my 4-year-old would say to me when he's just making up random stories one night.
Yes.
Daddy, I was in the VR restaurant, the Partnership Plaza, and I had a Baconator, and I was playing basketball in the Buck Biscuit Dome. Like, if he said that to me, I'd be like, all right, that checks out. That It sounds like the kind of stuff.
Was
that
in
say.
Roblox? Yeah. What was?
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
Right? Yeah,
like
exactly.
So
what the heck is going on? Has it already gotten that uber commercialized? I mean, we haven't even launched Metaverse, and now we've got these overly commercialized virtual environments where you're using Baconators again. One more time, you're using a Baconator to play.
It's like a currency type thing.
Oh, got it.
So they basically built this whole Wendyverse thing where you can go and hang out virtually and have some fries and a Baconator and a Frosty, which just once again, this is where the whole Metaverse thing starts losing me. It's like, if I want a Baconator and fries and a Frosty, I want the real thing.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want the virtual?
No.
Yeah, it's not going to really
I
do anything.
I don't feel like I get a lot of sustenance out of that. No.
Yeah, but you can trade these Baconators
to play basketball in the Buck Biscuit Dome.
There it is. There it is.
Now I'm just going to freely.
Somebody
admit.
at Wendy's feels that this is brilliant.
Well, and here's the thing: Wendy's has been like
is Dave turning in his grave right now?
I don't know. Wendy's has been like a upfront, like way out in front of everybody else on social media. Like their Twitter account has always been one of the most hilarious accounts. They have no problem having all kinds of fun. They're very, very smart marketing when it comes to modern marketing and social media. They get it in a way that a lot of other, corporate chains and retailers don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess this is them kind of getting out in front of this too. But here's the thing. I'm going to freely admit, and we've talked about meta enough times now and the metaverse and what all this means. I feel like this is going to be one of the first significant gaps in my technological understanding.
Yes,
like,
I agree.
Not something I don't understand.
The generation behind you is going to be at a different level than
one
you are going to be.
One of these days, I fully expect Miles probably to be sitting there with his goggles on and telling me
in the Wendyverse.
Yeah, in the Wendyverse. Hey, Dad, I'm hanging out in the Wendyverse. Would you want me to get you a Baconator and go play some ball in the Buck Biscuit Dome?
That's right.
I'll be like,
what are you talking about?
Sure thing, son.
When I was a boy.
Yeah. When I was a boy, we just went to the Wendy's or McDonald's down the street. Yeah.
Played basketball outside.
Played basketball in an actual court.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so I fully admit, I'm not, I don't think I'm going to ever be on board with a lot of this. This is the first place where I'm going to be like, all right, I understand it, but it's just not for me.
Yeah.
It was not meant for me. It's not built for me.
Right.
I will probably be on the outside looking in of this.
Yeah, it wasn't, but we're gamers. I mean, I'm not a gamer, but we grew up,
That's true.
in the gaming, so we understand a lot of this. It's just the whole idea of putting your entire world into that universe. That to me is the part that's like, it's like oil and water right now. Because the good thing about gaming to me is you can walk away from it, whatever, even back in the day.
And a lot of people have trouble doing that.
Well, clearly, yeah. So are we just continuing to enable that? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't know, but it's an issue.
Yeah,
for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
So,
all right, let's
go hang out in the Wendyverse if you want.
Let's pivot to a real world problem.
All right,
global tax. Are you aware that this global tax is a global minimum tax? I'm sorry. So here's the problem, right? You got these large companies out there that are avoiding taxes due primarily to their locations. So the use case is you got a global international company doing lots of business, lots of profits.
Right.
They'll move their headquarters, air quotes there for those of you that can't see, to countries that have lower tax burdens, like Ireland. This is the whole run up to why Ireland now suddenly became the global headquarters of the top whatever.
It was like how, wasn't it what city? Isn't there a city in Connecticut that became like the haven for all the credit card companies?
Yeah, and like all the insurance companies went there or something.
Yeah,
like that.
It was just like the most friendly city for all these like financial companies.
Oh, financial company.
At some point,
so, okay, yeah, right. Yeah,
so I guess it's that same idea
where there's distortion. So so what the companies would do is they'll book their profits in those countries, even though they're doing business globally, so that they get a lower tax break a tax break. So what that has done is created this kind of global race to the bottom is the argument here, where you just have countries that continue to lower their taxes, and it's just a race to the bottom, because at the end of the road, Now, I'm tabling whether or not you feel taxes are good or bad. Let's just not get into that conversation. Just assuming for this argument,
we'll call them a necessary evil.
Thank you very much. And taxes are a necessary evil. So if you have a race to the bottom, well, then the countries that, have raced to the bottom, okay, yeah, now they've got these companies, but there's no tax coming in to do what it needs to do, like whatever. And so you have examples where Amazon, who has done billions in a particular country, pays zero tax in that particular. I mean, I'm talking billions of economic activity, zero taxes. So the solution is what this global minimum tax refers to. And by the way, I guess they've got 136 countries signed into this idea of a 15% minimum tax that would go on there. If you listen to Janet Yellen, who's our Treasury Secretary, for decades the United States has participated in self-defeating international tax competition, lowering our corporate tax rates only to watch other nations lower theirs in response. The result is this global race to the bottom. No nation has won this race. So there's this conglomerate of countries getting together. So I get it, and I'm not saying that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's got some pros and it's got some cons, right? You're going to have now with some of the pros are you're reallocating those tax revenues. So if you have a minimum of 15%, this is good for those countries that weren't collecting or weren't able to, like the use case I just gave you where Amazon did billions of dollars. Right. But if you're able to tax on the economic activity that's happening in your country, that's a good thing, right? Yeah. So now you at least get 15% of that, and you can put it towards your social programs or whatever it is that it's going to be. They do make this argument that I was like, they say, well, individuals are now going to pay fewer taxes. So first off, when has the government ever said, "Oh, now that we're taxing corporations at a higher rate, you can have some of your money back"? So
theoretically, that's how it should work.
It should theoretically,
whether it will,
never ever in my lifetime, it has never happened.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, that's not so much of a pro.
But though, not to interrupt you there, my thing with that is more of, don't get me wrong, no one's going to complain about paying less taxes. But if you at least can tell me that someone else is paying their fair share.
That's it.
And that, therefore, all the stuff that we are paying into gets better and more robust and more accessible because we're all paying our fair share, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
You don't have to make me pay less as long as I know everyone else is paying what they're supposed to.
Yeah. So you're bringing up the classic term of loophole, right? That's how you get into this unfair practice, right? Where you and I might be paying what we're supposed to be paying, but somebody who's got the lawyers and the accountants can game the system. And again, that's one of the cons, I guess, of this is that, wherever there's tax, wherever there's money, there's always somebody out there trying to provide a way to get around some of those loopholes by creating loopholes. It's not that's not going to go away. Yeah. So I just thought it was intriguing, when it came up. I'm like, maybe this is, I see the pros and cons. I can definitely see, you hear about how it's being abused with companies moving into countries just for the express purpose of doing that. And that doesn't seem fair, right? No, I mean, to the average person, it's like, come on, man, you've got lawyers and accountants and you're gaming the system. Right. I'm not.
Whereas you and me can't do that.
Can't do that. So we all need to be on a fair.
If I tried to, I'd probably get audited and thrown in jail.
So maybe we do need this kind of global minimum tax. Again, I'm not a tax kind of guy, but anyway. So it just it caught my fancy.
I thought the most alarming stat that I saw in this little snippet you sent over to me was, for context, corporate tax revenue will account for about 7% of the U.S. government's federal tax receipts this year.
Yep.
7%. Mm-hmm. That's alarmingly low.
Isn't that kind of low? Yeah.
I would honestly, probably should be closer to half, frankly, but even like 25% seems like a little bit more reasonable, Because again, we were talking about corporations that rake in billions upon billions millions of dollars, and we're barely getting anything out of them, and everything else is because if it's not coming from the corporate tax revenue, then that means the other 93%, a significant chunk of that's coming from people like you and me.
Yeah. And it's like it's so anyway, it gets into the whole argument of where do those dollars then go and stuff like that. But I mean, it's, I don't know, call it the fairness doctrine. You just want fairness. It's only 7%, and we're paying I mean, the average citizen's got to be in the 20 to 30% range on individual taxes. So, yeah, tax is always a hot item. But if you weren't aware that the global minimum tax, this is one of those stories that was kind of buried a little bit.
I do remember seeing it when it
hey,
came
this
along.
is a big deal.
But but we didn't. No one seemed like they were talking about it very much.
Oh, we're just moving forward with this. It's like, whoa, hold on there.
So that's kind of important.
Yeah, a little bit. So,
all right.
Anyway,
let's wrap up here with the America's Best Cities for Remote Workers. So this was an article from Ownerly.com, and basically they did a ranking of the best cities for remote workers to actually be working in.
Okay, fair enough.
Now,
I'm intrigued.
As always, because you always like to know what's the criteria here. And again, the criteria, some of it's maybe a little dubious, but basically they looked at things like rent and housing prices, makes sense, the cost of living, safety data, which we know from the last episode we did, that's a dubious stat to figure out exactly what that means. The level of broadband and free Wi-Fi coverage.
That's interesting.
Sense,
okay, so
obviously,
so if you're remote, you could bounce around.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay,
I guess that's just it, because when I think of remote work, I think it's like what we're doing right now when we're not here doing podcasts or whatever.
We're not at our
home. Yeah,
we're not at a desk in an office.
Right, we're just at home. But I guess remote work. Obviously, the whole idea behind remote work is it can happen anywhere. So if you could do it out in some random location, or an office building, or in a park, or in a Starbucks or whatever, if there's access to free Wi-Fi.
I'm good so far.
So it says, beside expanding our list of cities by nearly 50% from the 2021 best Zoom towns, as they refer to this list, we also added new metrics that include the cost and availability of childcare, restaurants, and co-working spaces.
All right.
Again, I think most of this is actually a pretty good list too.
I'm good. I'm good.
So the number one on their list was Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, is this okay?
And they did point out, like, it seems odd that the heart of one of the largest Amish populations in the U.S. would be a top pick for remote workers, but apparently they offer plenty of free Wi-Fi, an assortment of broadband providers, and several options for co-working spaces. The city is among the safest they surveyed, with median home prices are lower than average among northeastern states. It was also noted that in this list, almost all of them were Midwest and northeastern cities.
I love that.
The West really didn't fit in because the cost of living is so high.
Ridiculous, even though it's a beautiful place.
Exactly. So, like, I think Cheyenne, was it Cheyenne, Wyoming? I think was the only
one
far
even
west.
close.
It was the farthest west that even showed up in the list. But just for our purposes here, Cincinnati, Ohio does show up on the list as number 9.
Hey, we will take that.
The largest city to make the top 10. Cincinnati sits on the Ohio.
Nice.
For some reason, they decided to call out that the Reds and the Bengals are here. I don't know if that really has anything to do with remote work.
Hey, come on, man.
But,
it's quality of life.
Well, I guess so, yeah. But it says, for remote workers, Cincinnati has free Wi-Fi in a large number of areas and offers an abundance of green space to an easy walking distance for a city its size. While it has the highest median rent among top Zoom towns, if you want amenities, a large city provides, such as concerts, theaters, and a great variety of places to eat, Cincinnati may be the town. So I guess they're kind of presenting this more of the option of, like, hey, if you want to work remotely and have a cool town to do it in, you can pick one of these towns to potentially do it in. It does, because in my mind, I think of Cincinnati as like, all right, it's a great remote work town because no one wants to go into Cincinnati.
Well, I think that's changing a little bit.
A little bit,
saying into town.
Well, I mean,
there's
like,
a lot of great restaurants and whatnot.
No, I know. I agree with you. I'm saying, like, we've talked about before. Like, I think when we first got into the whole pandemic thing or whatever, working home, is like that the traffic to get in and out of our big city here nearby is very problematic and very difficult on the best of days.
Right.
And the idea of being able to work remotely has to be very beneficial for a lot of people that might normally work in Cincinnati, knowing that you don't have to go there.
That's a really great point.
I thought of that as what makes a good remote work town, is one that, like, you're avoiding a lot of problems by being able to work remotely. But so the rest, let's see, of the top 10, we had Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Dalton, Georgia, a town I've never heard of.
Dalton, Georgia. That used to be a carpet town, I think, right?
Yeah, it is.
They made all the carpet in the world.
The carpet capital.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
McAllen, Texas.
All right.
Topeka, Kansas.
Ooh, geez, Topeka.
Rochester, New York.
Rochester, that's up there.
Lincoln, Nebraska. Cheyenne, Wyoming, I mentioned was the farthest west.
Okay. There you go.
On the list. Williamsport, Pennsylvania is a lovely little
Beautiful town. Beautiful town.
Cincinnati was number 9, and number 10 was Kingston, New York.
Okay, there you go. See, now that gives me hope here, right? Because I do think populations are changing.
They are.
The only bad part about most of these cities is that the weather kind of stinks for a couple months out of the year.
Yeah.
If you can get over the whole, but if you're working from home and you're at home and you're in your home,
right?
Who doesn't like working?
Well, and
next
again,
to a
if
nice
there's
fire
flexibility,
like
there's flexibility for remote work, and if they're basically saying like, hey, there's a lot of different options for where you can work remotely within these towns, and I will be interested to hear more as this develops, and it's already been, but I'm sure it's going to keep growing because with the whole remote work, hybrid work thing is here to stay. Is the whole idea of the co-working spaces and people, kind of renting out spaces where maybe they have a little office for themselves in a building that has, I don't know, 5 or 6 offices that various people can rent out just to do their remote work. It's not for a single company. It's just, an individual. Like if you need to have your own separate office that's not at home or something, you have a space that you can rent out for it. I'll be interested to see if more of that, how that takes off, if there's going to be more and more opportunities for people to do that kind of thing, to have their own little spaces somewhere.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, there was a company, WeWork or something like that kind of specialized in that.
Right.
They had some issues, but maybe we'll start seeing that pop up here in this gem that we already know that is Cincinnati, Ohio, to facilitate that. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, hey, definitely. That validates that.
It does. Exactly. So good place for remote work around here.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Hey, that does it for our Tech Bytes. Before we get to our What's TEConnecting segment, I want to, as always, thank our TEConnect sponsors. We appreciate your support of the show. We could not do this without you.
It's a growing list of sponsors.
It is. That's why I'm actually not going to keep rattling them off because I'm going to lose track of who's who and who's sponsoring. So thank you so much for sponsoring the show. We appreciate you. As always, if you like the show, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on new episodes, as well as our cooking show and all the other cool videos, unboxed videos, the great thing that we're doing on our YouTube channel right now.
Yep.
If you are listening to the audio version, any way that you can like us, leave a review for us, please do that, especially on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's a great way to get the word out about the show, and let us know what you think of it. We want to hear from you. And of course, if you have ideas you want to submit to us, check out the link in the show notes. You can submit an idea to us. And just for submitting an idea, I will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt.
There you go.
We have a cool t-shirt just for giving us an idea. Even if we don't end up using it, we'll still send you a t-shirt.
So and we've had a couple good ideas lately.
Well, yeah, we've had some great ones, and we've had a few episodes around those. So please send those ideas into us. We want to hear from you what you want to hear about on the show. And as always, if you want to connect with us, you can find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod, or also email us TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap up. Normally we have our value to the VAR segment here. Are there any takeaways from any of these stories that really relate to, other than, again, just good water cooler talk?
Just good water cooler talk here. I was thinking about that a little bit, that maybe on my next Tech Bytes I'll start attaching it back to our industry, stuff like that. But just some awareness on what's happening on the AI side. Didn't know this 1,000 talents plan was out there. And good God, the Wendyverse. I don't know. Yeah, that's
maybe
we're just going to have to keep talking about this metaverse thing until we get it worked out.
We might be talking for a long time before we figure out that and NFTs. That's the two things I think. Those are the two things I think we are never going to quite figure out. And I'm kind of okay with that, maybe for now at least.
You know what? It was going to be hysterical. Or 10 years from now, when we come back and listen to these,
because we're podcasting from the metaverse at the time.
There you go.
When it's just digital avatars of you and me.
Except
they'll be younger and sexier.
But maybe we can. But maybe we can wipe out these episodes so we seem smarter 10 years from now.
Pay no attention to the episodes behind the curtain.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
Okay, so let's wrap up then with What's TEConnecting with You. This is our favorite segment where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, innovation, entertainment, whatever that has our attention.
That's right.
Dean, what is TEConnecting with You this
week?
Well,
I got 2 of them for you.
Okay.
Space perspective. So, I gave you recently I I teased and tantalized you about going up into space on Virgins, I think.
Right.
It was, unfortunately, it was $450,000 ticket that none of us had. Okay, how about a balloon? Would you consider going up in a balloon up into space?
No.
Okay, well, no.
I'm just going to say no.
Space Perspective is the company that is doing this. But, John, hold on now. These tickets are only $125,000 a piece. Okay, so we're getting a little closer to reality here.
Sure.
But, by the way, they've sold 600 tickets on this thing already. So, what is it? Okay, it's a balloon. It's a balloon with a little whatever you want to call it.
I assume this is like
below it.
low Earth orbit kind of thing.
Oh, yes. Okay. So it only goes 20 miles up into whatever. So it doesn't go as high. The Virgin Galactic that we were talking about, that goes 50 miles out. Blue Origin, which goes up, it crosses the Kármán line of 62 miles above sea level. So, you're on the edge of space. They claim that you're above 99% of the Earth's atmosphere, and you can see the darkness of space. So you're really close. And this pod that you're in is really flipping cool because it's very space age. The windows are 5 feet tall, so you can literally sit there, and I imagine you're probably spinning a little bit. I don't know.
I'm going to assume this is a little more secure than your standard hot air balloon.
Yeah.
Because frankly, that's kind of terrifying me.
Like it's got a built-in parachute if like the balloon or something like that.
Or you're not going to accidentally just randomly drift off into a power line somewhere.
I don't think you're 20 miles up. I don't think. Oh, you're saying on the ascend. Okay. Well, now here's
or crash into a satellite.
Before you say no, for your $125,000, which we talked about, the competition, you're only up in space for like seconds or like a couple minutes.
Right.
Okay. Well, for this, it's a 2-hour ascend. You're 2 hours floating, or what they call gliding, and then a 2-hour return. So for that, you actually get a 6-hour experience. Maybe. Okay. It's okay.
Get back to me when it's $125.
Then you'll go up.
Then I'll be happy to give it a whirl.
All right. The last big thing that I saw there, the Hydra Market, which is the dark web's largest online marketplace for illicit goods and services, shut down by Germany and the U.S. Did you hear about this?
I did not.
Hydra Market, again, it's the world's largest and oldest darknet marketplace of illegal items and services. Just recently was seized and shut down by German authorities in coordination with the U.S. law. This is pretty big. I mean, they went in, they took down all the servers. I don't live in the dark world, the dark web, so I don't know. But, they talk about it. It was used primarily in Russian-speaking countries last year, accounted for 80% of all darknet market-related cryptocurrency transactions. So in the crypto world. So anyway, it shut it down. So I'm like, that's pretty interesting. I guess national authorities are getting into the world of shutting down some of this dark web stuff, which, I mean, if you dig into it, there's a lot of bad stuff that happened. I mean, you're selling cocaine and narcotics and people, and I mean, everything is sold there. And the biggest market was shut down. Interesting. Yeah. Did not know that.
Did not either.
There you go. That's TEConnecting with me. What's up with you?
All right. So I'm gonna revisit a TEConnecting that I gave maybe a year or two back.
You got like an update or something like that?
Well, it's a science fiction series called Raised by Wolves.
Yes, I remember you talking about it. Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this is an HBO Max series. It was straight to HBO Max, not on the standard HBO platform. And when I called it out before, I think I was maybe halfway through the first season at the time. Okay. Well, a second season has been released since, and I've watched all of it. It is the most innovative but also insane science fiction series I have seen in a very long time.
Innovative and insane.
Well, so, I mean, look, we exist in a world where almost everything is built off of existing IP now.
Yeah.
It's hard to find, especially in the world of science fiction, content that isn't something that pre-existed. The Star Treks and the Star Wars, obviously.
I gotcha.
But, even Dune, which was the biggest sci-fi film of the last year, was obviously based on, a decades-old book. Mm-hmm. So, there's not as much opportunity to find unique new science fiction that is not already based on something that's pre-existing. And this definitely qualifies. But it's also just a crazy show that is so hard to explain. And a very brief synopsis of it is it takes place in a future, I don't know how far off, where most of Earth seems pretty devastated, and we have left Earth because there's been a epic religious war that has happened between an atheist faction and this group called the Mithraics, who worship a god called Sol or something.
Okay, all right.
And they, the atheists sent some androids who they've used for their battles and fighting or whatever off to another planet. These two androids that refer to themselves as mother and father.
Okay.
They go to another planet, Kepler 22b, I think, and and take a bunch of embryos with them, human embryos,
all right,
to start raising these new children.
Interesting.
On this planet, away from everything else. But the Mithraics end up showing up there also. Most of the children don't actually even survive the harsh winter and stuff that's going on. And I'm telling you this, that is like the first couple episodes is just that storyline part of it alone. By the end of the first season, you're getting, and this may sound like I'm giving spoilers, but there's so much that's happening in this show, and the joy of it is just trying to watch it and understand how it all pieces together.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a one of the androids gives birth to a baby snake god type thing.
What?
There are
like
strange,
genetically modified within it?
There are strange, like zombie werewolf type creatures on this planet. There are giant holes that go to the either end of the planet. The oceans are made of acid, and there are creatures that live in those oceans.
Oh.
During the second season, somebody gets turned into a living tree. The whole religious allegory takes on entirely different dimensions. There is an AI that is telling people how to, what to do on this planet.
Oh, hey, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, there are strange signals and voices that people may or may not be hearing. There is so much that is going on in this show. And there are many times, especially the end of the first season, where I went, I don't know that I want to do this.
Right?
Like, I'm not quite
This is
sure
exhausting.
I understand what's happening here. Second season came back, and I don't know if it's been renewed for a third yet. And I loved the second season, but it's so packed full of so many different kinds of interesting ideas and thoughts and
innovative.
It is. It's truly
with
innovative.
The innovation.
It is unlike anything I've seen on TV in a long time. Ridley Scott, I mentioned when I talked about it before, is the executive producer, and he directed the first few episodes. So they definitely have his style and flair and look. But it's a very good show. And if what I've said didn't turn you off, I highly recommend checking it out. But it is definitely a show that you really need to pay attention to and watch.
Yes,
because it's very dense.
Maybe even take notes.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's a lot of high ideas, and again, if you think like, well, he just spoiled a lot of the show for me. Trust me, there is so much stuff that you will not even that I've forgotten about.
Gotcha.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, and that happened too. Yeah, there was a weaponized mouse in one episode. Sure, yeah. I highly recommend it if you're looking for something new.
What's it on again?
It's HBO Max.
HBO Max.
So if you're looking for something new in the world of science fiction that is not the normal type sci-fi that you normally might watch, highly recommend Raised by Wolves. It's a very intriguing show.
Nice.
All right, hey, that does it for us. As always, we appreciate.
Hey, they got water cooler topics now.
That's right. You've got some water cooler topics. You can go have some baconators in the Buck Biscuit Dome while playing basketball.
Please not.
It's like some Sally's, sea snails by the seashore or stuff on there.
Yeah.
Basketball with baconators in the Buck Biscuit Dome. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Until next time, please stay connected. TEConnect Podcast is brought to you by ELO. Looking to meet the needs of both hospitality and retail customers and their employees, as well as their busy on-the-go customers? Introducing the new ELO M60 Pay, a mobile POS computer designed to support everyday business. It's rugged, enterprise grade, all-in-one device, 6-inch HD touch display, Android 10 OS, Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 octa-core processor.
What?
Sounds like something out of a James Bond movie.
Right?
And all of the requisite connectivity options.
Bomb.
Now, Dean, you and I are both fans of paying where, when, and how we want. We love
on demand, right?
Our phones, our watches, maybe a credit card if we feel like it.
100%.
Well, that really puts the M60 above other mobile computers for productivity, is that it offers integrated payment capabilities to speed customers along wherever they are.
Beautiful. Love
it's
it.
equipped for dip, tap, and swipe. That always sounds like a TikTok dance. doesn't it?
Can you say that again? Dip, tap, and swipe?
Can you do the dip? Can you do the tap? Can you do the swipe?
No, I'm not on TikTok, but go ahead.
Maybe I'll shoot my very first TikTok video. It'll just be us doing
Fair
our version
enough.
of whatever we think dip, tap, and swipe.
With the M60.
With the M60, yes. You'll be like, no,
don't do
we're
that.
good. We're
Yeah.
good. That's fine. We're good. We don't need to go viral like that. So that means that it accepts EMV cards with chips, NFC contactless payments for cards or mobile devices, and the traditional mag stripes as well. I mean, mag stripes, whatever. It's so 2000s.
Yeah.
Who's using mag stripes?
You still got it again.
I guess they're there for a reason.
Yeah,
Perfect for tableside service, line busting, curbside pickup, anywhere your customers need to accept payments. So to learn more about this amazing new device, you're going to be hearing more about this.
Oh, yeah.
In some of our other entertainment works as well.
Yes.
Check out the link in the show notes or contact the BlueStar ELO team. Dean, we just spent an entire episode talking about robotics.
Yes, we did.
Mostly in the world of warehousing and distribution. But if your customers aren't quite ready for that leap yet, something that you can do right now is to help them update their mobile technology.
Absolutely.
So worldwide, there are approximately 15 million mobile devices using the Windows operating system in warehouses, with an estimated sales potential of $2 billion US.
Wait, 2 billion?
$2 billion. That's
There you
a
go.
lot of money in a lot of devices, many of which are probably Zebra. But let's be honest, we know that Windows is kind of on its way out.
Yes, a little bit. We've been talking about that. Migration.
Exactly.
Yes.
So shifting warehouses from Zebra legacy devices to modern Zebra Android mobile technology represents a large business opportunity for Zebra and our channel partners.
It is ongoing, no doubt.
This outdated technology means that your warehouse customers won't be able to keep up with changes like the e-commerce boom, same-day delivery expectations, labor shortages, and, of course, Microsoft's end of support for enterprise window devices.
I mean, come on. Let's go.
It is. It's time. Come on. It's time. I know, again, we always talk about being Apple guys, but we know in this space, Android rules.
is.
Let Zebra help you modernize, migrate, and retain your warehouse business with swift, smooth Android devices. I love the sound of that.
Yes.
Swift,
Very
smooth
nice,
Android
yes.
devices. Check out the link in the show notes or contact your BlueStar Zebra representative to learn more.